In the blaze, I risked it all to save my first love, only to be locked in by him without a second thought. Afterward, my appearance was permanently changed. My parents grew distant and adopted a new daughter. That adopted daughter tricked me into a village, and over 3 years, I got pregnant 4 times. I played the part of being docile and eventually found a chance to escape and return home. But there, the adopted daughter mocked me arm in arm with my first love, while my parents were colder than ever. In the end, to meet her heart transplant need, I died in a car accident. When I opened my eyes again, I was back to the day of the fire. This time, without any hesitation, I locked my first love in the fire. Help me, help me. Facing the fire again, I suddenly opened my eyes and coughed uncontrollably from the smoke. The fire blazed right in front of me. Looking down at my princess dress, I couldn't help but smile. Everything was back to when I was 7. Jake's screams still echoed in my ears. In the last life, upon hearing his cries, I rushed to save him, even though I was scared. After pulling him out of the fire, he turned around and shut the door, trapping me inside as the flames consumed me. The fire lit up the sky, and a strange excitement rose in me. Jake, fate has smiled upon me again. I charged into the flames. Jake's silhouette was vague in the firelight. Just as he was about to escape, I kicked the metal door, locking him in. Why is the door closed? His cries were hoarse and desperate. Lucy, are you there? Open the door, save me. His voice grew distant, his coughs sharp and piercing. Looking at the door, I imagined his sorry state behind it. I played weak, replying with a tearful voice, don't worry, I'll find someone to help. At that moment, both sets of parents rushed into the fire, while I curled up in a corner safe from the flames, shaking all over. My mom rushed over, Lucy, and hugged me tightly. Are you okay, honey? Let me see. She gently touched my face. These hands once gave me warmth, but later pushed me to the brink of despair. I frowned and pulled away, which she took as fright. Seeing my burnt-up dress and dirty face, she cried. She sobbed while carefully inspecting my face. I inwardly sneered. The Browns, the ultimate perfectionists, once saw me as their masterpiece. If my face changed, I'd be no better than a stray. Once she confirmed I was unhurt, my mom carried me away from the scene quickly. I leaned on her shoulder, watching others breaking down the metal door. By the time they carried Jake out, he was almost lifeless. He went straight to the hospital, while I went home with my parents. Thank God you're okay, otherwise how could I live? My mom said tearfully. Strangers might believe she was genuinely worried, but all she cared about was my appearance. Dad sighed with relief, not noticing the coldness in my eyes. From then on, I seemed to change completely. I no longer laughed or played, and no amount of coaxing could bring back my smiles. They sent me to see a psychologist, and I pretended to cooperate. The diagnosis was post-traumatic stress disorder. From that day, my parents treated me warmly. I knew they'd go to any lengths to give me anything I asked for, but I kept quiet. They got anxious. Sweetie, what do you want? Mom asked softly, Dad agreeing by her side. I lowered my eyes, hiding the chill within. Yep, they were the same as always. In the past, when I returned home, within a year, their adopted daughter was diagnosed with a heart condition. She asked for my heart, and they arranged that fatal car crash. A lot of effort went into that. I pointed at the TV, which was playing a period drama. I want her, I said. Dad, after his shock, immediately acted. Bring that actress here for our daughter. I shook my head, confusing my dad. I want a servant, I clarified, pointing to the servant character the actress played. My parents looked troubled. Where is there such a thing as servants in this society? A playmate of just 7 or 8. Child labor wasn't legal. Seeing their difficulty, I feigned disappointment and looked down. If it's not possible, never mind. Dad paced the living room, distressed. Mom gripped my hand. How could it not be? I knew they'd come up with a solution. Sure enough, Dad lit up an orphanage. We traveled to countless orphanages, seeing hundreds of kids. I was picky, none of them were her. It annoyed my parents as they sought perfection in everything, even in finding a pet. Eventually, we found the right one far in the south. The director, upon hearing their request, brought out a girl. This is Daisy. Her skin was as smooth as snow, with a round baby face, and her eyes reddened at the sight of my parents. Mom frowned slightly. Cute, but cries too much. She needs to be tough, since she'd be my servant. Dad echoed her. The girl held back her tears, trying to appear strong. I don't cry easily. I'm just so happy, Mom and Dad. My name is Daisy. She gripped her dress, bowing gracefully like a lady. My parents both frowned. Mom, displeased, said, what nonsense is that? Who's your mom and dad? Since the fire, I never called them that, and they hoped to hear it from me. So why would they want someone else to call them that? Daisy froze, disbelief on her face. Aren't you adopting me? No, Bob is adopting, Mom casually explained. Bob was our driver. Daisy's small frame shook violently. How could this be? She muttered to herself as Bob came in from the door. Seeing Daisy's unhappy face, Bob was also displeased. Though he had no desire to adopt since he had a family, Dad offered him a high price to adopt under his name, doubling his salary. With thoughts of money soon in his pocket, Bob calmed down. Yes, I'm adopting. Daisy, do you agree? The director asked, noticing Daisy's trembling. Could she possibly remember her past life too? Curious, I stepped out from behind my mom in my pink shoes. Daisy's gaze stuck to my face. Who are you? Mom reflexively held me close. This is our baby Lucy, be careful how you speak. Daisy was shocked. No way, you're not. In her memory, I should be a disfigured mess. But now, fate's scales tipped in my favor. You're not, are you? Mom scolded fiercely. If you're rude, we won't consider adopting. Sorry. Daisy looked down in a panic, all pitiful. Of course, she wasn't willing to accept it. Even if she became Bob's adopted daughter, as long as she could get close to her parents, there was a chance. I pretended to be scared of Daisy, burying my face in Mom's neck, unable to hide the smile on my lips. Another one fell into the trap. While the parents and Bob were handling paperwork, Daisy and I went back to the car first. In the car, Daisy's pretense disappeared completely. Lucy, how come your face isn't disfigured? It wasn't surprising, she asked. In the previous life, when she was adopted, my face was already disfigured. You look pretty. I lazily glanced at her. She must have dressed up for this. A neat dress, 2 cute braided pigtails, all ready to be adopted by my parents. Too bad, all in vain. They don't love you anymore. So you remember the past too. Lucy, you're the one who got me to become Bob's adopted daughter, right? I grinned. Wrong guess. As long as I'm here, they won't adopt another child. But, to meet my request, they went out of their way to have Bob bring you back. What do you mean? Her face turned red with anger. I glanced at the approaching figures outside the window, then obediently sat back, looking like the quiet type again. She lunged at me. Don't play dead. The car door opened, and Mom saw her clawing at me. She yanked her by the collar. Daisy, if you bully my daughter, I'll throw you in front of a car. She would do that. Daisy knew. That's how my previous life ended. She bit her lip, a bit wronged. My name is Daisy. Mom, expressionless, dragged her to the back seat. Who cares what your name is? She then hugged me tightly, her voice gentle. Did you get scared, sweetheart? Don't worry, Mom's here. I tilted my head, nuzzling against her shoulder, like giving her a little reward. Her eyes lit up, looking at Dad. Honey, see, it was right to get her a servant for the baby. Dad nodded with satisfaction. Daisy, sitting in the back, went pale. What servant? What are you talking about? No one answered her. After we got home, Bob drove away. But Daisy stayed, guided by past instincts. She went upstairs. Mom stopped her. Where are you going? Your room's over here. She was put in the nanny's room. That night, she cried loudly into her blankets. I leaned by her door, hugging a teddy bear, slowly chuckling. She cried beautifully. The next day, I was sitting primly at the dining table like a princess. Daisy was sent to the kitchen to bring me breakfast. Watching her struggle to place the breakfast on the table, I lifted a hand, deliberately knocking it over. Spilled all over. Ah, she screamed. What happened? Mom rushed down from upstairs upon hearing the noise. Seeing the mess, she quickly ran over and picked me up. After making sure I was fine, she shot Daisy a cold glance. How clumsy can you be? If you hurt Lucy, I'll cut off a hand. In their eyes, I'm a pristine work of art. No scratches allowed. If more than 10 strands of hair fall during the nanny's daily brushing, she'd get fired. Daisy's tears fell like raindrops. Mama, why are you treating me this way? I'm your child too. Mom looked at her with disgust, then turned back to comfort me. Lucy, her mind's not right. Should Mom get you another servant? I shook my head. Nope, just her. Only her. Anyone else would be boring. 3 months since the fire, the Smiths brought Alan over. He's been hiding shyly behind them, too scared to step out. Mrs. Smith, with tears in her eyes, gazed at me. Lucy, can you tell Auntie, why did the door suddenly close? At the mention of the fire, I played scared, huddling toward Mom. She quickly embraced me. Dad looked disapprovingly at them. What's with these questions? The psychologist said Lucy has PTSD. Don't bring up the fire. Mrs. Smith wept uncontrollably. Alan said that as he was running out, the door closed. We just want to ask if Lucy saw who closed it. Nope. I peeked up from Mom's arms, innocent eyes wide. The wind was strong. When I saw the fire, I got there, but I was too slow. Dad patted my head. It's fine, baby. Don't blame yourself. Then, he turned to the Smiths. We understand you're worried about Alan, but Luce is not well. The police checked. No fingerprints on the door, no trace of a third person. If there was a strong enough breeze, sure, the door could close. Truth is, there was no wind, not at all, but there were no cameras there either. In the past life, when Alan locked me in, he said it was the wind. Everyone believed it. Perfect, he gave me the idea himself. Blame goes only to him for messing around with fire. Daisy stepped out. With guests over, she was excused from chores. Seeing the Smiths, her eyes lit up. She dashed forward. Hi, Uncle and Aunt. The Smiths looked confused. And you are? Mom smiled faintly. Bob's adopted daughter, visiting Lucy. Daisy struggled to maintain her smile. Spotting the figure behind the Smiths, she rushed forward. Come play with us. She reached to pull Alan out. Ah, she screamed, seeing Alan's disfigured face, falling onto the ground in shock. Watching this scene, I almost laughed out loud. Who would have thought? Her handsome perfect fiancé from the previous life turned into a scarred mess. Alan recovered, but the burn scars covered 90% of his body. No undamaged skin for a graft. Quite tragic, huh? But my previous life was like that too. At least his parents still love him. Mine, on the other hand, heartlessly abandoned me. He's luckier than I am. It's really frustrating. What are you doing? Mom scolded Daisy angrily. But honestly, the moment she saw Alan, she froze too. She used to like Alan a lot, but now she dislikes him just as much. Daisy couldn't believe her eyes. How could this happen? Then she turned to me. Lucy, you must have done it, right? Slap. Mom slapped her hard. She held her cheek, tears streaming down. You hit me. Mom couldn't bear it anymore. Lucy, do you really need her? I can't stand her anymore. Can't stand it already. I put up with it for a long time in my last life. You better hold it in. I glanced at Alan. Trembling, I said, Alan looks ugly. I'm scared. Alan froze, feeling like he was being mocked. Lucy, don't be afraid of me, okay? He seemed upset. I was just returning his words to him. Ahem. My dad gave a tactical cough. Let's cancel the engagement. You saw it. Lucy's scared of him. Alan got angry. What do you mean by that? What about the partnership between our families? Alan's all about the benefits. No way he'd want to give up this project. My dad was in a tough spot too, but he didn't want an ugly son-in-law. I tugged Mom's sleeve, and when she looked at me, I pointed to Daisy. Mom's eyes lit up. You mean? She smiled and looked at the Smiths. Let Daisy marry him. Mrs. Smith was stunned. What are you talking about? She's just the driver's adopted daughter. My dad played along. So what? Bob's been driving for me over 10 years. I trust him the most. Marry her, and the partnership continues. Otherwise, it ends. Reluctantly, the Smiths agreed. Partly for the profits, partly because with Alan like this, who knows if he could find a good wife despite having money. Daisy was just the driver's adopted daughter, but she's pretty. Daisy couldn't believe her ears. No, I don't want to. I won't. Slap. Mom slapped her again. Then go back to your orphanage. So the marriage was set. Daisy didn't want to go back to the orphanage. She still dreamed of achieving wealth and glory from her last life. Even if she had to marry Alan, it'd make her a rich housewife. Every day after, she served me tea, carried my school bag, and held an umbrella for me when it rained. She wouldn't dare touch me easily, waiting for a chance. At age 10, after being a servant for 3 years, she finally got her opportunity. On our way home, she mentioned a street with great candy, asking if I'd like to buy some. I unsuspectingly agreed. Eagerly, she carried my bag over. I calmly took it back. Go get in line. I'll wait here. Sure. A sly look passed through her eyes. Watching her leave, I slowly smiled, ducking into a corner and took out my phone to send a text. Blue and white school uniform, ponytail. Only one fits this description. After sending, I deleted it. Daisy returned with candy. Not seeing me, she smiled happily. Does she think I got kidnapped like last life? She nibbled on her pastry, hopping cheerfully. A van stopped nearby. A big hand pulled her inside. Door shut. The van left. After witnessing this, I called my dad's phone. Dad's voice was gentle. Lucy, what's wrong? Daisy's gone, I whispered. I'm scared alone. Dad came to get me right away. My bag had a recorder. They installed it for my safety. Listening to it, it was clear Daisy led me there. According to what I told them, after she went for the purchase, she disappeared. They reported it to the police, but she couldn't be found. In my past life, Daisy left me on that street. I got kidnapped, even burned hideously, and still someone in that remote village wanted me. Only for $100. They poked holes in a sack, put it over my head. I lived like that. Started as labor, doing the heaviest work, eating the worst food. By age 14, old bachelors started visiting my room. Covered in scars, I just need to drop my pants. Over 3 years, I conceived 4 times, played the submissive role till I found a chance to escape. For 7 years, the van regularly delivered girls to the village. The police never caught them, but I remembered their phone number. So, as Daisy plotted to have me kidnapped again, I plotted to sell her instead. Being so pretty, she'd be way more liked in that village. With Daisy gone, the collaboration between Lucy's and Alan's families was on hold. Neither side said it continued nor ended. 7 years passed in a blink. I had grown up, inherited great genes, plus the effort my parents put into me. Elegant, flawless face, stellar grades. With a sharp memory since childhood and well-trained, I almost had a photographic memory. Graduated from a renowned university at 16, now helping dad manage the business. Parents took me to high society events worldwide. Always the one who stood out. Crucially, that wealthy elite son everyone saw as unattainable was now fervently pursuing me. Swirling my wine glass, I suddenly thought of Daisy, wondered how she was doing. As long as she didn't harm herself, she must still be alive. Perhaps it's time to bring her back. I asked Dad for the collaboration plans for Lucy's and Alan's families. Alan had aged, more greedy too. When I heard this partnership was still on the table, I rushed right over. I slid the contract over to him. Let's continue working on this project, but Alan will handle everything. Hearing this, Alan was surprised. Why? Lucy's been transitioning, and this project isn't a fit for her. I'll just take a share and won't skimp on the investment. But as for the execution, Alan can take care of it. Alan seemed hesitant about this unexpected opportunity. I sighed. Uncle Alan, our families have always been close. I know I said some thoughtless things to you as a child, and I feel bad about it. I promised this project before, and I won't back out now. Do you still not trust me? Only then did he relax and happily agreed. 5 months later, there was an accident on Alan's new project. 8 people died. It was a shoddy construction job, and Alan got taken in for questioning. Seeing the news on my phone, I laughed, lying on the bed until tears rolled down my cheeks. Ha, dead. They are all dead. Good riddance. I heard some fell from heights and had steel rods go right through their skulls. Others got buried when the foundation collapsed, crushed like meat patties. Just imagining the scenes was beautifully satisfying. Did anyone really think I was kind enough to let Alan make money? I knew his true nature. I invested, but I kept a tight leash on the funds. He wouldn't dream of spending his own money, so he cut corners at every opportunity, choosing the cheapest materials. In a past life, Alan also faced a shoddy construction incident. Nobody died back then, though. But this time, those 8 victims were handpicked by me. I disguised myself and hired workers, sending word to a village chief with an offer of $1,000 a day. Who could resist? I picked 8 from dozens who had once mistreated me, then placed them on the site. I was almost hysterical with laughter. Those who bullied me in the past life won't end well in this one. 4 more to go. When police interviewed the deceased's families, they found Daisy, who had been trafficked, and brought her back. She was visibly scarred, hollow-eyed. She cried clouded tears upon seeing my parents. Mom, Dad, I've finally come back to you. She was either delusional or insane. My parents' disdain was clear as day. They only held my hand, telling me to keep my distance from her dirtiness, wary she might be diseased. I watched Daisy coldly without a word. She yelled at me, Lucy, you ruined me. You should have died. It should have been you that got kidnapped. Smack. My mother slapped her hard. Realizing what she'd done, she rushed to wash her hands, disgusted. I looked Daisy in the eyes, unbothered, my voice icy. Seems you've lost it. Not doing well there, huh? I'll forgive your rudeness this time. You're doomed. She spat with rage. It was almost funny. In my last life, I met a horrible end. This time, it's their turn. Did Daisy forget? Being as troubled as she was, Bob didn't want her either. In the end, I was the one who suggested keeping her in Lucy's house, in the maid's quarters. I expected Daisy to cause a scene, but she was eerily quiet for a week, doing nothing, which caught my attention. Quiet dogs bite. Who knows what she's planning? I carried on with work, spending most of my time on it. Each day, there were flowers with jewelry on my office desk. I tossed them aside. Men, such a hassle. Yet, this bothersome guy kept trying to get close. He parked in front of my company, relaxed against his car, head down on his phone, cool and composed. 6'3", $1 million car, catching the eye easily. When I emerged, he put away his phone. Miss Lucy, care to join me for dinner? Sunglasses on, thanks, but no thanks. I got into my car. He didn't press. Returning home, Daisy emerged with a suitcase, rolling her eyes at me. Where you headed? I asked. None of your business. I'm not living under someone else's roof. I'm moving out now. I didn't stop her, just watched her leave. Where could she possibly go? As long as she's on Earth, she can't escape me. I went to bed early that night. In my sleep, I felt a sudden jolt. When I opened my eyes, it was pitch black. My hands and feet were tied. Oh, Daisy, so you've gone off the deep end. The car stopped in the outskirts. The trunk opened. Daisy dragged me out, dumping me on the ground, pain shooting up my body. She stomped on my stomach, looking down at me. Lucy, it's your time to die. Her face was twisted with malice. She bent down, ready to smack my face. I kicked hard at her knees. I rolled under the car. Damn it, Lucy, get out here, Daisy shouted, kicking the car. Why don't you crawl in? A familiar voice, Alan. Oh, they've teamed up. Unexpected, but not shocking. I knew they harbored ill intentions, but didn't expect them to act so abruptly. Unprepared, I was in real danger. Daisy ducked under the car, reaching for me. I curled up, timed it, and kicked her face hard. Blood gushed from her nose, yet she wouldn't back off, determined to drag me out. Lucy, I'll kill you myself. My life's ruined, and you won't have it easy either. But she couldn't catch me, taking quite a beating instead. She was surprisingly resilient, probably got used to it in the village. If not for my setup, she might never have tried to escape. We were in a deadlock when suddenly, something gripped my arm, yanking me out. Facing Alan's ghastly face, my heart sank. He slapped me without warning. Then he kicked me hard in the stomach again. I rolled over twice, feeling cold sweat from the pain. Alan's voice was full of malice. Lucy, it's your fault I'm disfigured. Daisy added fuel to the fire. Believe me, in her past life, she was the one disfigured, the one abducted. Alan looked up, his hoarse voice sounding eerie. Why did you do this to me? Weren't we in a first love? Why would you harm me? Am I ugly? He squatted down, grabbed my hair, forcing me to look at him. Tell me, am I ugly? I laughed bitterly. Alan, don't you know deep down how ugly you are? I'll tell you, very ugly, ugly as hell. I wasn't afraid to provoke him. They kidnapped me, so they must have decided to kill me. Since I'm destined to suffer, why should I flatter them like a fool? Ugly, right? Instead of getting angry, he laughed and said, I'll take you right here. He then leaned over me, kissing my neck wildly. Disgusting. Truly disgusting. I bit his ear hard and pulled fiercely. Warm blood splattered across my face. Alan screamed, trembling as he collapsed beside me. I tore off his ear, just like that. I spat the ear aside. So dirty. Disgusting. Daisy was shocked. Lucy, you're crazy. She rushed over, but a tall figure blocked her way first. With a lift of his long leg, Daisy was kicked over. Next, I fell into a firm embrace. You're okay now. His voice was soft, comforting me. I'm here. I wiped the blood on my face on his expensive shirt. Jake, why are you here? I wanted to grab dinner with you. Your housekeeper noticed you were missing, checked the surveillance, and saw you were taken, so I followed. I looked at him. Thanks for your courage in rushing here without hesitation. No need to thank me, just repay me with a body, he joked, caressing my swollen face. Who hit you? Before I could answer, Alan somehow got back on his feet. He yanked me over, pressing a knife to my neck. Get back. His hand was shaking non-stop. I felt a sharp pain in my neck, followed by warm liquid spilling. Jake's pupils shrank, but he couldn't risk moving. He stood still, staring him down. Daisy laughed madly. Lucy, in the end, you're going to die. Do you know how I spent those 7 years? I labored like a beast, giving birth to 5 kids. All because of you. I've always thought, if I ever get out alive, I'd kill you. She laughed and laughed, then cried. I stayed indifferent, watching her coldly. Who hasn't been through this kind of crap? Alan whispered in my ear, this is karma. When you got me locked up, you should have known this day would come. The pain in my neck increased as the knife pressed deeper. I shifted my gaze, spotting a glimmer of light in the distance. Move, I told Jake. He seemed surprised but obediently stepped aside. Bang. Alan's laughter stopped instantly. His forehead exploded, blood splattering everywhere. He fell straight down. The cops arrived. He was armed and had already injured me. For my safety, they ordered a sniper to take him down. Daisy got arrested. When they slapped on the handcuffs, she just shook her head dazed. Impossible. How could it be like this? She's the one who should have died. I was sent to the hospital. The cut on my neck was deep, but luckily it didn't hit any major arteries. After being stitched up, I ended up in a high-end ward. Jake stayed by my side, dark circles under his eyes. Do you really like me? I asked. He looked at me with heartache. Do you like me because I'm pretty? I asked again. Yes, I like your beauty, your wit, your composure. Lucy, I want to make you smile. His voice was soft, like he was talking to himself. Smile. I never smile in front of others. Maybe he doesn't know I can actually smile. When I'm alone, I laugh like crazy. When my parents heard I was kidnapped, they rushed back from abroad. My mom cried at the sight of the wound on my neck. She kept asking the doctor if it would leave a scar. Only when she found out it wouldn't, did she finally relax, holding my hand. Lucy, it's okay now. Daisy has been sentenced. 10 years at least. She won't get out. I was expressionless. 10 years, that's hardly punishment. Daisy's crime can only be redeemed by death. I want to go home, I said. They took me back home, nurturing me to health. When my 18th birthday came, since I was still recovering, we didn't hold a big ceremony. But Jake showed up unannounced, with a bunch of bodyguards carrying gift boxes. Lucy, happy birthday. He's persistent, I thought, but not that annoying. My parents were thrilled. Though the Brown family is prestigious, they're not quite at the Miller family's level. If we could marry into the Miller family, the Brown family would soar. But they didn't know, they could no longer control my life. Because on this birthday, I gave myself a special gift. Lucy, your dad and I need to run to the company. We'll celebrate with you tonight. My mom smiled kindly. I looked at her. Where's Bob? It's fine, your dad will drive. My dad nodded with a smile, reassuring me. I said no more, just watched as he picked up the keys on the far left. After they left, Jake and I watched some cartoons. You like this? Keeps the child in me alive, I said. He placed the gifts in front of me. Time to unwrap. Exactly 18 boxes. I slowly opened them. He clearly put some thought into them. Do you like them? He asked. Just then, my phone rang. It lay on the table. Dad was calling. A light twinkled in my eyes, and I smiled at him for the first time. I do. Happy birthday, I told myself inside. Then I answered the call. Your parents had a car accident. They're in the hospital. Please come quickly. I froze, dropping the phone. Jake was still caught up in my smile, then worriedly asked, what's wrong? I turned to him, tears spilling out. My parents, they got into a car accident. Jake drove me to the hospital. Outside the operating room, I signed one critical condition notice after another. For 3 whole hours, I was on the verge of collapsing. Jake held me up. Sit down, okay. I nodded weakly. He held me tighter, showing his concern. Before the surgery ended, the cops showed up. We found that the car was tampered with. It's registered under your name, Lucy. Do you know anything about that? I blinked slowly, taking a moment to understand their question. What do you mean? Are you suspecting me? We can't rule it out. That's ridiculous. Jake looked at the police. It can't be her. I was there when Mr. Brown took the keys. There were dozens of keys. How would she ensure he'd pick that car? Did she tamper with all the cars? The officer nodded at Jake's words. We can't rule it out. Then looked at me. Lucy, can we check the other cars in your garage? I looked down, feeling weak. Go ahead. The surgery ended. The news wasn't good. Mom is paralyzed from the neck down, doomed to bed rest for life. Dad is brain dead. Hardly any chance of waking up. Hearing this, I broke down crying on Jake's shoulder. Lucy, he didn't know how to comfort me, just gently patting my back. Don't cry, okay? Let's go see them. I wasn't crying. I was laughing so hard. It didn't matter if they survived. They loved me dearly all my life, perhaps paying back some debt from a past life. I stopped laughing, and when I looked up, my eyes were void of life. Neither of my parents woke up. I arranged the best room for them, the highest grade nurses. Alone in their room, Jake waited outside. Looking at their sleeping faces, I forced a smile. Dad, Mom, don't you want to see me smile? Don't you want me to call you? I did. What a shame you can't hear or see. But it's okay. I'll support you forever. You think I'm ugly, but I don't mind. Leaving the hospital, Jake and I went to the station. The investigation showed no issues with the other cars. After delving deep into my relationship with my parents, they found I had no motive. Plus, Jake and his bodyguards testified that my dad took the keys himself. In the end, I was cleared of suspicion. Turns out they found 2 hairs in the accident vehicle. Tests showed they belonged to Alan, but Alan was already dead. No chance to confront. He'd kidnapped and almost killed me. The police believed it was him who tampered with the car. Unexpectedly, my parents took the fateful drive. No one knew the hair was from when I pulled it during my kidnapping by Alan. No one knew my dad, a lefty, habitually grabbed objects from the left. It was late. The cop said I could go home. I suddenly asked, is Daisy still in detention? Can I visit her? Growing up with Daisy, the cops thought I was being sentimental. She tried to kill me, yet I'm visiting her. Too kind, they thought. Jake frowned. What's there to see? You can go ahead first. He paused. Go ahead. I'll be outside waiting. I went in. I looked around. No surveillance. The officers stepped out. It was just Daisy and me in that small space. She glared at me. What are you doing here? Here to mock me? I chuckled. Daisy, I've got a secret for you. Something you don't know. What? Turns out, you're Alan's sister. What nonsense. Not nonsense. In the previous life, you and Alan got married. How was your brother? I smiled at her. She balled her fists, shaking. You're lying, aren't you? How could it be? I sighed. Too bad Alan got jailed for faulty constructions and died. The Smith family might be declining, but they've still got decent money. Maybe 40 or 50 million. A glint appeared in her eyes. I couldn't help but smile. Though it's all in Mrs. Smith's hands. I'll either take it or bankrupt the family. Don't think you'll get out and inherit anything. You, Daisy snarled. Lucy, with everything you've done, what more do you want? I smiled, standing. And yes, you guessed right. I was the one who had you taken away. You, she clutched her chest, collapsing in pain. I watched her struggle, then rushed out. Officer, she looked sick. When the cops came in, Daisy was already unconscious. She died on the way to the hospital. Sudden heart failure. The cops asked what happened. Through tears, I said, I just told her about my parents' accident, and she just collapsed. They were skeptical. What's that to do with her? I shook my head. I don't know. She always called my parents mom and dad. Everyone knew she was odd. Regardless of whether they believed me, I left. She died from heart failure without any prior checks. No one knew about her condition, and I held no responsibility. My birthday passed in chaos, but it was the happiest day for me. So happy, I couldn't stop smiling. Driving, Jake suddenly asked, did you do all of this? I paused, looking at him. He drove, voice steady. When you were kidnapped, Daisy and Alan said weird things about trafficking, arson. Jake, I called him, answering his question with another. Do you have the guts to date me? He didn't answer, just drove me home. I walked inside without looking back. Gifts were scattered all over the floor. I didn't hesitate to step on them. Jake, I don't need anyone's love, because I don't trust anyone. Loving myself is enough. The end.